Oh yes, morning brown is going down. Oh my god. Talk about free dopamine, borderline free caffeine if you buy coffee beans and make your own coffee. Oh, morning brown goes down so hard. I should actually slap that on a t-shirt, shouldn't I? Morning brown going down. That's a great idea. Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is NZ Rookie and welcome back to another video. So last week I decided to make a bit of a sit down video where I was actually standing up, but still more of a one-on-one, and I've decided to do that once again. Yes, I know I'm making sort of the summer shred series that's going to be on the side. I am continuing with it. Don't worry, I am still getting absolutely gizzard for this summer, but just for now, just for this week, I wanted to make a little one-on-one little video. So the topic of today's video is how to recover from any injury, right? So we're going to be going over the main tips that I have used from my personal experience to recover my own injuries, and hopefully that can help you guys too. So without further ado, let's get into it. Be my pleasure. So first of all, before we start getting into the tips as to how to recover from any injury, I do want to say that none of this stuff is magic. You are most definitely going to have to put the work in, but if you are willing, I guarantee you can recover so much quicker than you anticipated. Now, why should you listen to me? Why am I a reputable source? Well, I actually want to tell you guys about an injury I experienced this year. So for those of you that don't know, I was fortunate enough to experience playing first 15 rugby this year. I played lock for the Auckland Grammar School first 15, and in New Zealand, first 15 is basically the pinnacle of high school or college sport. Essentially, ever since I joined high school, my first year, year 9, form 3, it was always a dream of mine to play in the first 15. You know, when you're that age and when you're that young, you look up to these guys. They're like the frickin' Lionel Messis of high school. And every single year, you basically trial for a better team in order to get closer and closer to the first 15. Now finally, in my 7th form year, I got selected for the preseason squad to play preseason games, which ideally will allow me to get selected for the squad. Now, as you can imagine, obviously, this is like a freaking dream of mine, dream come true. Obviously, it's a bit different when you get there because you're actually experiencing it, but still, I did not want to miss the season for the life of me. I would have played with 1 foot, 2 nubs, bloody, you know, you would literally have to cut off my arm before I'd consider not playing the season. So initially, during the trials, I experienced an emulsion fracture in my wrist. Now, I wasn't too worried about this. Usually small fractures are pretty quick to heal, and I didn't really do anything to properly recover my wrist, but I did take 2 weeks off from not playing because I wasn't too worried about missing preseason games. I then played my first game of rugby coming back after 2 weeks off. I just strapped my wrist and it felt fine. Anyway, one of our final preseason games against Tauranga Boys College, I did the same thing. I strapped my wrist and I went out there ready to frickin' play. And literally first tackle of the game, I threw my arms out, and unfortunately it was more of an arms tackle and less of a shoulder tackle, and I smacked my forearm against one of the opposition players' knees. Now initially, at the time, I didn't think too much of it. I was like, yeah, cool, dead arm, whatever. Continued playing, and then after the game I was like, whoo, you know, my arm's pretty sore. And then on the bus ride back, I was like, okay, it's like a 3-hour bus ride. I was like, my arms, for want of a better term, completely screwed. So by the time I got home, I took off my shirt and my forearm had basically like doubled in size. I don't know if you guys have seen that Conor McGregor clip, and he's like, Me leg is like a football in me suit pants.
You know what I mean? It's just me leg is like a football. Me below me knee is literally like a football or an American football inside me suit pants.
You know, me arm was like a inflated up balloon in my sleeve. So I rested it that weekend and it started to feel a whole lot better. Now this leads me into my first tip, because this is the first mistake I made, and that is, if you experience an injury, don't continue training. I made the mistake of trying to continue training that week in order to show my commitment to the team, and what it ended up doing is just slowly throughout the week, my arm got worse and worse. It got more sore. It was keeping me up at night. I was waking up at night with like burning sensations. Had to rub ice into it, which led me into getting an MRI of my arm. So eventually I got the diagnosis, which was I had completely ruptured 2 of the muscles in my forearm, ECRB, erector carpi radiobrachialis. Does that sound right? ECRB and ECRL. I think those are the 2 muscles. Anyway, the specialist recommendation was cast your arm for 6 to 8 weeks, no more rugby, and then strengthen it for 2 weeks until you can play again. Now, obviously, I'd been working for like the past 4 years of my life to get this opportunity. Now that the opportunity was here, a stupid injury at basically the fault of my own, because of the fact I didn't give myself enough recovery time, my season was on the line. So that is when I decided to make the switch and just become entirely recovery focused. I wasn't taking any chances. I wanted to play the first actual game of the season, which was in about 2 weeks' time. And I did. I stayed determined. I ended up getting to play that first game in the season and playing the whole season, and my arm never bothered me. So now I'm going to run through the tips on how I reduced my recovery time from 8 to 10 weeks, into a period of about 2 to 3 weeks. So tip number 2, presuming you have now stopped training, you've realized you've got the injury, is increase your protein intake. So this was the first thing I did. I doubled my protein intake. Now I got this through sources such as protein bars, protein powder, lean meats, eggs, egg whites, these kind of sources. And essentially what I wanted to do was just to ensure my body had all the sufficient protein and the sufficient calories. I was making sure I was eating in a caloric surplus so my body had the energy to repair the damage that had been done. I was intentionally eating as much as possible because I knew that my body needed the nutrients in order to repair my damaged muscles as quick as possible. Now this is something you have to be extremely consistent with. One of my recommendations is use MyFitnessPal to track your protein intake. My protein essentially went from about 160 grams a day to about 320 to 350 grams a day. So I was taking no chances. I was making sure I was absolutely caning back some protein to give myself the optimal chance of recovery. The second method I used is a method called bilateral transfer. So essentially what I did is I still went to the gym and I actually trained the muscles of the opposite arm that was healthy, as opposed to training the damaged arm. I believe I have a couple clips on my phone of me doing some forearm exercises, but essentially what bilateral transfer is your body realizes the physiological adaptations that are happening on one side of your body, and so once the other side of your body has healed, it can quickly transfer all the physiological feedback from one side of your body to the other side of your body, essentially speeding up the recovery process. This means that all the muscle building that will have taken place on the right side of your body will quickly be able to be transferred to the left side of your body and vice versa. Also, just on a side note, alongside these tips, you guys need to be doing everything you can to recover. So that involves resting, immobilizing, something I was doing at night. So I got given a cast that I was meant to wear for 6 weeks. I think I wore it for 3 days and then I cut it off. But essentially what I did is when I went to sleep, I put the cast back on and taped it up just to ensure that my arm was immobilized. So ensure you're resting, you're immobilizing, and after, an initial rest and immobilizing period, you're getting immediately to strengthening. So for me, with my forearm, it was squeezing exercises. But if you've got a leg, say, a ruptured quadricep after, a few days, maybe a week of immobilization, just making sure you know your limits, you're getting into strengthening as soon as possible. So yeah, on a side note to these tips, make sure you're doing everything you need to ensure the recovery process is going smoothly. Tip number 4. Now, I actually got this tip from a professional rugby player who goes by the name of Waisaki Naholo. Essentially, in the 2015 Rugby World Cup, a few weeks prior, he broke his leg, and he went to Jamaica to receive some special treatment. He was probably on SARMs or like roids or tren or something. But essentially, what I found from the research was that he used Kawakawa leaves in order to enhance his recovery. So obviously ensuring I was ticking off every single box possible to give me the chance to play, I of course got my hands on some Kawakawa leaves. Now what you want to do is you want to select the Kawakawa leaves that have been essentially eaten by insects, because they have the antioxidants, the nutrients, the healing powers, for want of a better term, that actually go in to the Kawakawa leaves. So what I did is I boiled the Kawakawa leaves, and I physically put them over the arm to reduce inflammation, but then I also got the juice out of the pot that I boiled them in, put them in a glass and drank it. So I was drinking Kawakawa leaf juice as well as actually putting the Kawakawa leaves on my forearm in order to reduce inflammation and promote the healing process. Now my 5th and final tip, and this may not be what you want to hear because it's not practically something you can do, but it is belief. Belief is absolutely everything. If you want something bad enough, I truly believe you can think it into existence. So for me, when I was literally sitting down at school on my desk, I would literally picture my heart pumping white blood cells, recovery blood cells, into my forearm. If you can literally picture the muscles in your arms, like the myofibrils being mended, I honestly believe your body will enact physiological adaptations in order for the healing process to occur faster. Literally, one of my biggest dreams for the past 5 years was to play against Kings in the annual Kings Grammar fixture. 10,000 people get to watch that rugby game. It was one of the craziest experiences of my life, and certainly these methods, as well as the power of belief, definitely, I would argue most importantly, belief is what got me to be able to play in that amazing fixture. I literally might even just make a video on that day in itself, because it was an absolutely heroic day. If you guys want to see that, drop a comment down below. But just know, if you want anything bad enough, you can achieve that. I honestly believe that when there's a will, there is a way. Obviously, don't go too extreme. Obviously, I was pretty lucky. I know my body really well, so please be careful when you're doing this. Like, obviously, I don't recommend going against medical advice like I did, but essentially, if you know your body really well, you know your limits, and you're willing to take some risks, and you got belief on your side, I honestly believe you can recover from pretty gnarly injuries in a lot less time than what people are saying. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I hope for those of you that are injured currently, this video helps you get back on track and back to training and get freaking massive absolutely ASAP. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you guys around here in another video next week. I've been NZ fucking rookie, mate. That was so cringe. Anyway, adios.
Not a driller, but I've left man open, leaking. Terrorist the way I've had man's parents screaming. Brandishing my flicky in the shrubs, steaming. When I snap, I see red like I'm possessed by a demon. Always been a nigga that can dress clean. Rubbing every day I would finesse weed. Never knew when I would see